Locke and Sawyer are jabbering on as Ben stares at Alex's body, still in disbelief. Ben says to himself, they changed the rules, and looks the most mad / serious we've ever seen him. Ben goes into his secret door and locks everyone else out. Inside the room, the one Sayid went into in episode 3, there's another secret door that looks ancient. Okay, now the big question about the door is, what do the glyphs say, and what do the hieroglyphics mean? From what can be made of it, the top glyph means summon or servant, and the bottom means protection or to repel. Another glyph can be made out to be power or attack. The eye could mean to awake or to watch. And also there's another symbol that's a little hidden, but it looks to be master or lord. So the door in its mixed up state could read, the master summons protection. And remember, Rousseau says that the monster is a security system, so the glyphs would make sense. As Ben opens the door, his face is shaking from anger. We go back to Iraq, and Ben starts to stalk the man who supposedly murdered Nadia. He leaves, and Ben chases him. The man eventually puts a gun to Ben's back, but Ben says his name is Ben Linus. The man notices the name and looks fearful. Ben tells him to take a message to Widmore when Sayid shoots him. After 5 bullets and 5 empty clips, my favorite line was when Ben said, "Oh, that should do it." In this episode, we also find out a big answer in how Sayid starts working for Ben. If you remember, they're working together at the end of The Economist. Ben tells Sayid, once you let your grief become anger, it will never go away. And that he speaks from experience, most likely referring to Alex being killed. Sayid asks Ben, who's next? And that's how the loving partnership starts. It took the death of his wife for Sayid to forget just how much he hated Ben. I guess he sold his soul. Ben comes out of the room looking serious, but a little nervous also. He looks extremely dirty. He tells everyone that in a minute they have to run as far away from the mercenaries as possible. Then the house starts shaking, which seemed to me to be exactly like the book club meeting when the plane was starting to crash in the season 3 opener. Ben looks out the window and we see the smoke monster pop up over a house, probably from a vent nearby, and then pass them in the forest. This smoke to me looked a lot different than the ones we've seen before. First off, it's incredibly longer, it acts differently, and seems to be following orders, doing exactly what it's supposed to do, instead of making decisions for itself like it seems like the other ones have been. It seemed a lot more robotic to me instead of creature-like. And yes, there is a bloodbath and a lightning storm it looks like. You can hear Kimi say, "Pull back," but the monster totally destroys them, or so it seems. Kimi survives as we see him in next week's preview. I'm guessing Ben doesn't want him dead, as he wants to kill him himself. The black smoke also seemed to me very snake-like this episode when it was passing the house and how it appeared to coil and constrict the bad guys. Ben then goes up to Alex and kisses her bloody forehead, looking completely heartbroken. Now the big question everyone wants to know, does Ben have control over the monster? In the brand new podcast, the producers were asked the same question, and they didn't want to give a definite no or yes, of course, but they did say it would be fair to assume that Ben can summon Smokey, but that there are consequences to summoning it that even Ben doesn't have control over. Obviously, Ben chose his house right over the ancient door. So right there, we already know that Ben knows more about the monster than he claims to in episode 2. But I still don't think that Ben or the others have complete control over the monster just because of how frightened Ben seems to be of it. Another idea could be that the door that Ben goes through allows him to travel off the island into the past. He might not be able to control the monster, but the smoke monster might compensate for any time anomalies on the island in the present. So say for instance Ben travels off the island into the past and kills the mercenaries and then travels back onto the island. The monster would take care of the mercenaries because if they don't exist in the past, they can't exist in the present. Back at Jack's camp, Dan starts his Morse code message. He taps what happened to the doctor and hears a message back. But Bernard knows Morse code and says that instead the message said, "What are you talking about? The doctor's fine." Now let's assume the freighter people are telling the truth about the doctor supposedly being fine. Doc Gray shows up dead on the beach before he's even killed on the boat. So this is just another example of the time difference on the island. Jack gets extremely mad and asks if they're ever going to take them off the island, and Dan replies, no. Then Jack grabs his side as he's in pain. The rest of the survivors of Locke's camp meet up, and Locke says to Ben, you lied to me about the smoke monster. And Ben says Jacob will tell you all you want to know about it when we go to his cabin. Sawyer thinks they're psycho and starts to leave with everyone, but Ben and Locke need Hurley. Sawyer lets them know that if they touch one hair on his curly head, he'll kill them, but Hurley says it's okay. Now they supposedly need Hurley to find the cabin, but Ben leads the way. Now Jacob seems to be obviously upset with Ben about something. Remember, he said, help me, and Locke was the only one that heard it. Maybe they need Hurley to find the cabin, and Locke to hear Jacob, and Ben to talk to Jacob. Something like that. Now remember Hurley's comment in the season opener about how he shouldn't have gone with Locke when he was talking to Jack. We all thought this meant when he went with Locke when the two camps split up, but now I'm thinking more and more that this is referring to now when he actually goes with Ben and Locke to see Jacob. Maybe something bad happens. Now we go to London, England, where Ben goes into a fancy hotel and lies to the clerk about who he is and who he's seeing. And also an interesting note is that this is one of the only places in Lost not filmed in Hawaii, but actually in England. He rides up to the penthouse and goes into Charles Widmore's room. Notice he also has the painting of the black rock from the auction house on the wall. Widmore wakes up and says, looks like you've been getting some sun. And Ben replies, your rock is lovely this time of year, inferring that the island was actually Widmore's. Widmore asked if he came here to kill him, and Ben says, we both know I can't do that. I'm guessing the island won't let him die, just like Michael, or they could need each other or rely on each other for something. Charles tells us that everything Ben has was once his. He also says, I know who you are, what you are. It's interesting, Ben has been referred to as a what a few times now. Remember when Miles met him for the first time down underneath his house. Ben tells Widmore that he is going to kill his daughter, Penny, so he knows what it feels like to have his daughter gone as well. And when she is gone, he'll wish that he hadn't changed the rules. Widmore says you'll never find her. He also states that the island is his, it once was, and will be again. And then Ben says that he will never find the island. We already know Widmore was tied into Dharma somehow because of the different items on the island that have Widmore Industries as the logo. And I feel almost positive that Widmore has been to the island at some point before. It's looking more and more like Widmore and Ben are playing a giant game, as I mentioned at the beginning. It could be like a giant Risk or a giant chess game, and everyone's acting as the pieces. Ben even mentions his own daughter as being just a pawn. And Widmore even uses the word game in their conversation. Okay, that's the end of this recap. Again, awesome episode. Next week, it's a Jack-centric episode, and it's called Something Nice Back Home. The week after that, it's a Locke episode, and it's called Cabin Fever. So I'm pretty sure that in 2 weeks we're going to be seeing Jacob. Again, I really like this, and if you have any questions, message me. I also read every comment, so let me know how you liked it, and I will see you in a week. God bless.